I'm a kitty cat. My sisters. Okay. Oh my God.
Harp here. What else do I need?
I took some too. Righty witch. I'm so pretty. You're so pretty. Be the loveliness of me.
Double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. Cauldron bubble.
Rosemary, do remember me by her through the fog and filthy air. I said, oh yeah.
Thrice the brindled cat hath mewed.
Thrice, and once the hedge pig whined.
Harpier cries, "'Tis time, 'tis time."
There
is Owl's hair. Hover through the fog and filthy air.
So good to see you. How long is
So
it
good
been?
to see you.
900 years?
900 years. Oh my God.
sister, where hast thou been?
I need a little change of atmosphere. So I'm in Chicago now and I'm plant-based. No more tiger's children for me. I'm vegan. Wow. How about you, sister? Where hast thou been?
I'm in Newfoundland, but I'm planting a little garden. I've got some bok choy and some lettuce and, some things. Food security on an island isn't the best at this moment. And, we have to stay ahead of the curve, kind of. It's a little scary with this pandemic happening.
I know. I didn't even predict it, and I usually predict pandemics.
I didn't cause it. Did you cause it, either of you?
It wasn't my fault.
No, I had nothing to do with this one. Not this one.
And Sister One, where hast thou been?
I've been stuck inside, mostly cleaning, some drinking, and so I started this game, Pokemon Go. There.
Oh.
And I battle people. Look! It's so much fun to catch these little creatures.
So great.
Duncan,
That's so great.
that, huh? Duncan.
And I can see now, guys. I can see now. I don't know if you noticed, but my eyes are slightly different. And yeah, I have contacts.
I'm making some fish stew today.
Ooh, what do you have?
I am making a curry lentil stew.
Ooh. I have a white miso soup.
But I wonder, I don't have any onion. Can someone give me?
Oh, I have an onion.
Do you?
Oh, I have plenty of onions. I'll share it with you. No problem. No problem.
Sister. Oh, thanks so much.
But I did forget to put carrots in mine, so.
Oh, I have carrots for you. I'll send one to you now, okay?
You mind? Oh,
here.
look at you. Oh, look. Oh. And you made them how I like them.
Oh, cute. I forgot some ginger. Does anyone have ginger?
Just so happen to have the biggest piece of ginger on the island.
Send her over, sister.
Are you ready? There you go.
Ooh.
How'd it go?
That's some good soil.
Oh,
That's some good dirt.
I think that shrank.
It shrank.
Oh, is it time? Should we do our final ingredient?
I think so. I'm hungry.
Me too.
Hello?
Hello.
Weird Sisters.
Oh,
Hi.
oh,
Hi.
Is
hello,
that
Mr.
you?
Cimolino.
Hello.
Wow.
Hello.
It's so good to
How
see you.
exciting.
Hi, Antoni.
Well, I just want to say hello to each one of you. It's wonderful to see you again. I guess, Lanise, you are in Chicago?
Yes.
Hi, Lanise Shelley.
Hi. Great to see you again, Antoni.
It's good to see you too. Lanise, in addition to being one of the Weird Sisters, is a phenomenal actress and very highly educated. What do you have, about 5 degrees, Lanise?
I've been around. I've been around the world a few times, yes.
Yeah. And Deidre Gillard-Rowlings is in St. John's right now, I guess, Newfoundland, right, Deidre?
I am indeed in our cozy little apartment downtown with hardly anybody out on the streets. It's almost like Snowmageddon.
Dee is an actress that's worked across Canada and at the Stratford Festival, obviously, and it's great to see you again. And Brigit Wilson, I guess you're in Stratford.
Yes.
Well, yes, I love what you've done with your hair. These pandemics, they really, we'll all be rushing to the hair salons as soon as they
I would have cleaned up if I'd known you were going to show up today.
I was going to tell you, but I decided to keep it a surprise.
Okay. For people who are watching the film of Macbeth, and it's already been 4 years now since we made that film together, let's talk a little bit about the process and what we discovered along the way. Viewers won't know, but we actually began our rehearsals with the witches, just us working together on this play and looking at the world of the magic and of the darker elements of the play. And I say darker elements because when we began to work on it, we discussed Wiccan and different spiritual influences. We had a spiritualist in, but what we were really trying to focus on was dark use of magic, dark use of spirituality, which is a kind of scary place to go. I remember we looked at different practices around the entire globe, from European ones with the Norse and Celtic roots, South American, right all over the world. Let's each one of you, I'd love to hear about what resonated for you from that process. Lanise, let's begin with you. What of all of that in those first few days landed and hit you?
Well, it was extremely exciting to have a strong say in the design and in the world of the play that we were building. And I always like to draw from my heritage, my Haitian heritage. And so when we were talking about all these different rituals and traditions, I immediately thought of Vodun and decided to draw from that. And we just created this huge, just melting pot of ideas and passed them around. I was in Scotland for some time studying with the Birmingham Conservatory when I was the Chicago Fellow. And I studied some of the Scottish witchcraft and sorcery, and we just threw those ideas around as well. It was great when designing my witch, I got to be inspired by various video clips and images that we drew from to create these portals, that we like to call them, that connected us and amplified our powers. And so drawing from various traditions and rituals, Candomblé, Santeria, Vodun, some North American practices, and as you said, some European practices, just enriched the experience and created this like multicultural, just rich, powerful experience.
Thank you. And Dee, what about for you? What landed for you?
I remember when the spiritualist came in, or the medium that we brought in. It was really interesting to see how, because we had such a range of reaction to the woman, and whether or not you believe in what she thinks she's able to do or not, I felt we were all very, very respectful to not outrightly say, oh, well, this isn't true, in the same way that I think maybe the characters in the play are doing with the actual witches. You know, are they old women? Are they, do they actually have power? There was something really, really interesting for me about how everybody interacted with her. It gave me a window into how maybe the people in the play viewed me, and that was really cool. It was nice to have that sort of reality brought into the world of a play that way. Yeah.
Yeah, we want to live in a rational world, don't we? We want to have a world where the lights are on all the time and we know exactly what's behind the corner. The idea of not knowing is kind of terrifying when we go to that place. Bridge, how about for you? What landed for you of that first few days?
I think it was really a unique experience. I don't think I've ever started a play just with 2 other players. The 3 or 4 days that we started without everyone was very much movement based. We watched a lot of films. We watched films about James and the witches. We watched some really terrific film, but for me, it was mostly about the body work we were doing with Heidi Strauss, who's a choreographer. And I remember it being really, really demanding physically. And being very tired at the end of every rehearsal day, but really excited to get back and keep exploring. We had to find our animal familiars, and for me it was the cat. So my movement was more cat than cow, and so there was a lot of spine work that I was doing, and a lot of low to the ground work. But I think the exploration, physical exploration was really, really fundamental to the 3 of us connecting and also being individuals within the unit called the Weird Sisters.
I wanted to begin with the witches because I believe it's the witches' world. I believe it is their world that Macbeth bumps into. And we had to find a way of making that compelling, giving out authority. You know, there's a place we all go to in order to shield ourselves from what we don't understand and perhaps are afraid of, which is laughter and humor, right? And so we had to find a way together of going and discovering those dark places. The cat came out of the text, of course, and now what was the function of the first witch? Like, I want to hear from all 3 of you, but in the first scene, what does she do in relative to her sisters?
The first witch seemed to ask the questions.
Okay. And so Dee, witch number 2, Dee, tell me about your familiar and your role in these scenes.
Well, my familiar, we decided, I believe, was a little frog. This little guy that Lanise gave me. Anyway, I was based on actually a toad more so. So a lot of my work was really low to the ground and trying to find the connection from the earth to myself. And the thing that sticks in my mind the most is how we created our own language. You know, like we took all of these different things from different cultures and different different ways of life and put them into like we created all these things, the language, a physical language with our hands and stuff when we were over the cauldron. And right. That was something that was really exciting to me that I really enjoyed, you know, that we, and that we were all so different.
But listen, if the first witch asks questions, and I remember the second witch would qualify it, add complexity to it. And I remember the third witch then, Lanise, would answer those questions. And Absolutely. So we thought you were a seer. Didn't you? Tell us about the third witch. You're familiar. And
well, this production created a really exciting challenge of being blind. And I immediately thought of being clairvoyant and clairsentient, hyper feeling and hyper seeing, because everything else was amplified because of this sensory obstruction. And I had these contacts that helped with that. But the idea that the third witch is prophetic, so she sees into the future. She answers the questions and the qualifiers, and she sends them into what will be. And so that's exciting. The 3 of us together we create an answer.
Yeah, and I was the collector as well. Like I had a bag. I collected all of the little bits and pieces that we put in, and it was almost like a sous chef, you know.
So we clearly decided that the witches weren't like a product of Macbeth's imagination, which sometimes come up. But of course, it makes no sense because Banquo sees and responds to the witches as well. In that first scene, in the first scene, of course, we lay out practically the whole play. That first 12-line scene that you're in, and we began the play with the killing of a soldier, and then you have a blood ritual. Can we talk a little bit about how blood rituals came up in our work?
Well, right, we smeared Macbeth with blood during the cauldron scene as well, didn't we?
Yeah.
When all the apparitions came out.
Yeah.
Remember where did that idea come from? I think it maybe one of the documentaries that we watched.
Yeah.
It was in a film. There was a lot of stuff about chopping off chickens' heads or something.
Yeah.
So in the production, we are found draining a soldier of his blood. And then you see us smear the Scottish king with the blood later. So
the blood also represents like the life force. And so it's kind of baptismal in that sense. We are creating this ritual of an initiation, especially when we're smearing it on Mackers. That choice to do it felt like a baptism of sort. And we're doing it with with this life force that we imbued with these powers. So that alone creates this like catastrophic, spectacular effect.
When you meet up with Macbeth and Banquo, you give him three acknowledgements. The first one is his current title. The next one is Cawdor, which he doesn't know he has yet. The audience knows, but he doesn't. And the third is about becoming a king, and he starts. Why do you think the witches go to him specifically, and why do they go to him with that information, do you think?
Well, I think that when we talked about it, we decided that we were kind of sort of elements of nature, almost like if something started to decay, we're the spores that get in there and allow it to happen faster. And we saw something in Macbeth that he was already thinking, maybe I want to be king. And we just helped him along, helped him to get a little bit more fetid. So, I thought that we found what was in him and then tried to pull that out, right?
So they're sort of catalytic. They get in there and they accelerate something that's already in a way started.
Yeah, because I think we talked about it, us not wanting to take the stance that we were just evil and that's all there was. We wanted to see what it was about his human nature and we just fanned his flame by saying you have this, you're that, you're Cawdor, and you're going to be a king. All of a sudden it's exactly what he wanted to hear, and it gave him the impetus that he needed. And that's what I remember us kind of discussing.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're all powerful and you're controlling everything, then there really isn't a tragedy. There's just this sad story about this man who is destroyed by witches.
Yeah.
But instead, you fan flames. That's great. Now, a really important part of that first scene is the information to Banquo, because you tell him he's going to be the father of a line of kings. And the person who seems to react to that more than anybody is Macbeth. And that's really central to it. So now, the funny thing is, as I reread that, guys, you are cool poker players because you don't tell him that. He has to ask. And yet, without that piece of information, the whole play wouldn't work, would it?
The jealousy, yeah.
Yeah.
The jealousy, that's right, because Lady M and M desperately want a line of kings to be theirs.
I can't quite remember what Banquo said, but it's something like, speak to me, I neither fear you nor want anything from you. I don't have it quoted correctly, but that almost is also an invitation just to play with him, right?
That's true.
Well, the idea of immortality, of having that line, to have your bloodline cut off, you're instantly mortal.
Later on, in the scene with the cauldron, we had a challenge to give that authority, to make it actually haunting and scary. What are some of the things that we discovered as we went through? Because on its surface, it is pretty, it can be kind of ridiculous. But I remember in the first read through of the play, after you had 3 days together to work on this, the entire cast, I remember the feeling. You all three started, and Dee, what you were talking about, the unison, it was very powerful. Like suddenly it was like we were in the world of the play, even though it was a first reading.
Yeah.
What's your recollection of that, of your time around the cauldron?
I remember that it possessed us. When things started to stir, it got into us and possessed us. That's how I remember playing the entirety of the cauldron scene. Like as soon as we got the ingredients in and we did our thing on our spit, it was like that power came into us, and there was a lot of, I don't know, it was really surreal and
well, we were channeling.
Yeah,
we were channeling those forces forward, propelling them to come forward.
When Macbeth, who desperately wants more information, comes to see you and you sense him outside the door, you have the line that something wicked this way comes. And that's a change, isn't it, from how you greet him in the first scene? It's clear now, whatever, with the murder of Duncan, he has kind of become, he's become a dark force in and of himself. And you share with him 3 different clues: an armed head, a baby, and then a child that's crowned with a branch. And each one of those different pieces of information is intended to answer his questions, but also to lead him on in his arrogance and his confidence and goad him on to his death. Especially the last piece. So that's the one I want to concentrate on, the line of kings. And you then remember you took the stuff from the cauldron and you gave it to him, and then we had the blood. Could we talk a bit about that baptism moment, Lanise and Dee and Brigit?
He drank from it, didn't he? We gave him a little cup and he drank it, and then Brigit, you and I held him out?
Yes, we held him, but I think we also tethered him.
Yeah, I tied him up. He was like this, tied up. We had taken his shirt off before that, and then you guys were on either side holding the rope, holding him still, and then I came and smeared the blood down his torso. Right.
We made him drink something from the pot, and then there was a kind of ecstasy that he entered, and the blood wasn't just smeared randomly. Lanise, you did a sign of the cross on him.
Right.
I think it was an inverted one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
There was no going back for him after that moment. He was ours. This is what I felt after that moment. That was it. He was continuing. There was no turning back,
Yeah.
Guys, at the very end of the play, spoiler alert, it's still the witch's world, isn't it?
Yeah.
And do you remember that moment when the crowd is taking Malcolm and throwing him up into the air, and you're still there? It was chilling. Do you remember our discussions about that? Because of course, if Banquo's children are going to be the kings, it means Fleance has to become a king.
Yeah.
Or at least which doesn't bode well for Malcolm.
No, that's true. No, poor Malcolm.
I remember that we were put into many scenes that we were not in the script.
Yes.
So we were in the banquet scene. We facilitated the appearance of Banquo and Duncan, and we were there the evening that Fleance managed to escape.
You guys were busy, and you were very busy backstage. I didn't know this at the time. Since then, all these videos have become unearthed, which told me what you're very creative sisters.
Yeah.
Burn and cauldron bubble, cool it with the baboon's blood. Then the charm is firm and good. trouble, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. Add thereto a tiger's cauldron with ingredients of our cauldron.
Well, when we chatted with the medium, she said that maybe it would be good for us to have some kind of ritual to let us get out of the world, the dark world, you know, like, 'cause we're trying to create something quite heinous. And so we kind of, well, we were all having fun anyway because we bonded, you know, but yeah, it was a great way to sort of lift the heavy energy of the show. And, you know, we were trying to be respectful because we knew what was happening on stage and how difficult it was for some of the other people in the cast. Like, I mean, it was for us too when we had to carry the heaviness, but it really, I don't know, the play that we engaged in really helped us to do that. Like I was saying, or remembering the other day, that we always smelled like chocolate because our dirt, we wanted to find something that was organic or wouldn't be hard on our skin, and we used cocoa. So I remember Pete Hutt coming in and going, "This is wrong. You smell so good. This is wrong."
Guys, could you talk to me a bit more about that, Lanise and Brigit, about the darkness? And, you know, because the play has a history. We didn't escape unblemished from it. What was it like dealing with these incantations? The legend is that within this text of the Scottish play, there are actual lines from witchcraft. And so talk to me about how you all dealt with that.
I believe our lines are in hexameter, and we have just a different rhythm than everybody else, and we had to counterbalance that with us as ourselves finding more levity, finding an opening for the light. But because we were going so deep into the darkness, like the cauldron scene, all of our scenes, especially when the show opens and it's pitch black, and all of a sudden through the fog, we emerge. And we're constantly emerging out of the darkness throughout the show. And then we vanish in thin air. And that was thrilling for us and the audience. But finding that balance so that we as artists, as empaths, don't get sucked into the darkness of that world. And I think we found a really great balance. Because in the dressing room, around the theater, we were engaging with people, we were making them laugh, and so we found that balance so that we ourselves didn't get sucked into the darkness through the research that we did, which was like extensive, through the text itself, through the atmosphere that we were building around us. And so it was really important to keep our own selves safe during the exploration of this play.
Brigit, for you, now in hindsight, this journey that you went on with Lanise and with Dee, what has endured? What stayed with you?
Well, we have a calendar that we made.
Can you show me that calendar?
Yeah. So we made this calendar for charity, but it isn't always a given when you work with people in the theater that you will actually bond. You're professionals, certainly, and you try to uphold the relationships. But I don't know, I feel like instinctually we all knew we needed to connect. That it was important to the essence of the witches. And yes, the spiritualist did suggest finding something like opening to the heavens, possibly through song, to lighten the environment. And it seemed that we did it through the picture taking in the videos and the silliness that we did. And I think too that, the Weird Sisters could easily be just a sidebar to the play, and respectfully, we worked and you worked on making it their world, so they weren't just an appendage hanging over there. I think you allowed us to be a very important part of the Scottish play. I can't even now. I don't know when I'm allowed to say the word.
I know.
Because of the superstition around the title, and also the number 3, which was really, really important to our incantation. The one that we're talking about, which probably was based on a true spell, to say thrice. I mean, it just still now, we knew to be very careful in that scene in particular. I did not want any bad stuff happening. So despite all the fun, silly picture-taking videos and stuff, there was still a nod to the possibility that we could make something terrible happen.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't want to tempt the fates or the Wicked Sisters. I interrupted your cooking party. So I want to say, enjoy your time together with your different ingredients. Lanise, it's so good to see you. And
Thank
you
you,
too,
Anthony.
Dee. It's a pleasure. And Brigit, all of you, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for the kind of commitment that you brought to these parts, because it makes an enormous difference to the end result. And I think everybody who's going to watch the film will see how your commitment made a difference. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Be
you.
well. Stay safe.
You too. Bye.
Bye.